They're going to kill the love of my life.
Casey!
If I don't go back to what I was doing.
Our line of work is quite brutal and quite ruthless.
How far would you go for love?
You steal truck, bring it to me. Then you make your money.
Is it dangerous?
Of course it's dangerous!
Nicholas Hoult, Felicity Jones, with Ben Kingsley and Anthony Hopkins.
All this trouble, all this pain, for love.
Collide. Now playing. Rated PG-13. May be inappropriate for children under 13.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning, and happy Thanksgiving, or Hanukkah, as some people are calling it. Everybody in New York City is gathering for the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and you have reached Venus Unplugged. This is your host, Llorraine Neithardt, and today, what are we going to talk about today? The fool and foolishness. Because as the host to your virtual Heartbreak Hotel, my task, and it could be yours too, is to really get conscious. Now, we're all practicing adults, right? And it's very interesting what happens in the holiday time, because we will go to our family or friends or people or whatever to celebrate, and we walk in as practicing adults, and we leave and we're five. The same old arguments internally and externally, or things begin to happen, which means we've gone unconscious. So the first task, or heart task, is stay conscious. Protect your inner kid so the inner kid doesn't act out. And you stay an adult, or at least practice being an adult, and just looking at it and saying, wow, isn't this interesting? This still pushes my buttons, and I'm going to write this down, and then I'm going to go and work on it. You see, in the laws of psyche, and the laws of heaven and earth, and everything has a law, and there's laws within laws and cycles within cycles. When we get caught up in a complex, or it just comes forth, and it catches us, and we think it's telling the truth. It's telling the truth in the moment. It's telling the truth of a wound that's still festering. But it's not necessarily clearing the energies for today and what we need to be thankful for and grateful for. And basically, the basics, we're breathing. And this last month, so many people really, really had deep, transformational, sorrowful. And, falling in love is a shock. There's been equal amount of people falling in love, which is kind of like, wow, okay, rock on. Not just out of love, but in love. So what is the fool? In the Egyptian hieroglyphic world, language, okay, the ancient Egyptians had no concept of sin, which I think is astounding. I've been pondering that one for years. What would that be like, to have no concept of sin? But they had, their equivalent was foolishness. It was a hieroglyphic of a little bird. And the bird eats up all the seeds and doesn't plant anything, and doesn't share, and doesn't do all those things. And so, of course, there's no new crop. So that's their idea, the ancient ones, of foolishness, the sin. And also sin is an archery term, which is kind of interesting because now we're in Sagittarius. It's an archery term that means you shot an arrow and you missed the mark. So when we miss a mark, that's part of what that's about. Now, also, the fool in a metaphysical sense, okay, so the fool in the Bible metaphysically usually means a person who will not make use of the intelligence that God gave them. So that's what we're going to work on today. That's what we're going to look at. Okay, so this is, these are leaves from A Fool's Handbook, and it's how to fail in everything. I thought I'd take a different approach. Okay, so these are the various ways we can fail in everything. First and foremost, knock everything systematically. No matter what you hear, depreciate it and predict the worst. This will build up an inferiority complex in yourself that will inevitably destroy any good things in your life that you otherwise might have allowed to slip by. Another, mind everybody else's business. This will ensure that you're neglecting your own. Try to please everybody. Wow, that's a big one. I just want to love everybody. Impossible. Not supposed to. Okay? Try to please everyone. Wow. And take everyone's advice. This will leave your mind in complete chaos. All right? So that's a good one, right? Try to live on bluff. Fake it till you make it kind of stuff, which, sometimes we have to do that. Like a job interview, or we just got to get through something. But as a way of life, not cool. And so you try to live on the bluff, and you are certain to be found out before long, and then no one will respect you again. Okay? Another one. This one's a doozy. Believe everything you hear. Someone said it, so of course it must be true. Or you Googled it, which is a lot of misinformation, so it must be true. All right? When you get a good idea, run about and tell everyone. This gives them a chance to discourage you by throwing cold water on it, and it causes your own spiritual energy to leak away like a ground in an electric circuit. And that's an important one, because we can get so enthusiastic. We're filled with the fire and the spirit, and there's not enough maturity or love to just hold it, cook it, like in alchemy. You cook. Be patient. Hold it. And inevitably, we give it to, a person who you may not even know it, who envies you. And they're definitely going to spoil it. So hold those ideas. Write them down. Work on them internally. Feel the joy. But if we share prematurely, and especially with people who can't feel the good in life or the good in you, they're going to piss on your parade, honey. Okay. Never perform today what you can possibly postpone until tomorrow. That's always a good one. Of course, tomorrow could be a free day if you get your stuff done. Now, I'm not talking about, addiction to perfection and you've got to get everything done. Just, get done the things that need to get done. Do it joyfully. Do a task. Call on the goddess Hestia. She's fabulous for getting stuff done. She's the goddess of the hearth. She helps us a lot. Then there's also leave the important things to someone else instead of seeing them personally. We pass on responsibilities or somebody else to do this, go and do this, and they're not going to do it. Number one, it's not their destiny. It's not their job. It's yours. Tend to it. Tend to the hearth. Tend to your life. Tend to your soul. It does everything, and it's eternal. All right? Make a point of arriving the day after the fair. Okay, so, lateness. Okay, I mean, we're all late, but if you're chronically late, some people consider that a power play and really get insulted, and sometimes it is. Well, it's not always. But if you're in the practice of being late, people don't take you seriously. They don't trust. It's like, yeah, sure, they'll be there, Or one of my favorites, my friend Nancy gave me this sentence. I was trying to explain that, when someone says they're going to do something, but then they don't. And she said, yeah, that's called buying the moment. And it was like, wow, buying the moment. I could never figure that out. If you say something, if you say you're going to do it, you know what? Do it. Even if you realize it's a disadvantage. I mean, of course, not harming yourself. But really, your word is your bond. That's what makes you powerful and authentic. Don't buy the moment. People do that. It makes them feel good to say that. They feel that they are a kind and generous person. Meanwhile, there's no action. That's definitely not cool. So that's called buying the moment. And then also have no organized arrangements. Trust to luck for everything. Oh, I just live in the moment. Well, where were you before you got to this moment? We don't have to have a rigid schedule, but we need to bring order out of our creative chaos and get things organized, particularly the night before, so that when we wake up in the morning, we can flow, okay? This is an interesting one. The day after the fire is the best time to ensure. Well, don't have to say much about that one, do I? Okay. And another one is like avoid notebooks and rely on memory. It's so interesting in particularly in writing down dreams. Hey, when you first wake up and you're writing down your dream, you're in another time space. And then when you go back to look at it, it's like you remember maybe some things, but what actually the poetry and the prose and the images that are written down, wow, straight from your soul, straight from the dream maker, which is the divine in you, the higher self. Then this one, definitely you will fail in everything with this one. Okay, these are all the things we can do if we're determined to fail in everything. Never be original. Find out what is usually done and copy that. That should have 5 stars on it. Original is origin. It comes from a sense of yourself. What's original? Originates in you. Realize that you have nothing more to learn. Well, that's intense, right? Oh, no, I have it on the highest authority. It's like, really? And this will destroy all danger of success. And believe me, there are lots of people who have the danger of success. They are so terrified of that they'd rather stay without being challenged by what success can be there, or just think they can get it without work, or whatever it might be. And then this is an interesting one here. Give yourself airs and hi-hat everybody. This will make you universally unpopular. Nothing wrong with a little attitude. Nothing wrong with a little, certainly a sense of confidence, sense of self, but not above people. It hurts them. It's not necessary. You can be gracious. It's very powerful, being gracious. Doesn't mean you're, you get used, but you're just gracious. And you did learn to disengage. And then there's sneering at those who are more successful than you. This will have a particularly damaging effect on your own life, all right? Because that sneer, that's unconscious envy. Oh, yeah, look at them. Who do they think they are? Blah, blah, blah. No, man. See the good. Because when we see what people can accomplish, that lets us know it's possible. You've got your own destiny. You've got your own things to do. So those little snide remarks, or sometimes I see that as kind of like a false intimacy. You know, a false intimacy is you're hanging out with somebody and then you really don't have anything intimate between the two of you, and then you start talking about a third person. That's part of like the sneering. Blah, 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 blah. And that's called false intimacy because you don't, when you have something in common or a conversation with somebody, there's an exchange. You don't bring in a third person, okay? Unless you're talking about a third person because they may need your help or, you know, something that is loving and kindly. Well, of course, in that case. But as soon as it starts that gossipy, get out of Dodge, man. Now, here's another doozy. Tell yourself that it is now too late and that you really did not have the proper equipment, and it will be especially helpful to keep you saying that people are against you. Yeah. Royal road to failure with that one. Never learn from experiences. Keep on doing the same darn fool things time after time and expect a different outcome. Okay. Never wait to hear the other side of the story. That's a big one. Knowing both sides will only unsettle your mind. So you get it, like I said, you know, you get in a snit, you don't know what it's about, you don't even question it just because that gerbil in your head is running around and around and around saying, oh my God, stop it. Set it free. Find out the other side, or at least imagine what the other side could be. That's what alchemy is about. That's what individuation is about. Individuation is about the tension of the opposites. We find out the opposite of what is going on. We hold the both in our mind. We don't choose one over the other until there's a resolution, and only Psyche can do that. But if we just do that, your life changes big time. But we're not talking about your life changer. We're talking about how to fail in everything, right? Okay, so then using your wit destructively. Be smart at the expense of absent people. This is sure to be carried to them and will make enemies for you. Or those snide remarks, or those bards. They hurt, man. So what are you going to say that for? Or if you have something to say it. Or say it in flowers. Stand on your own dignity. Never forget that you have a position to keep up, even if you have nothing to keep it up on. Never do any work that is not just to your liking. This policy should bring you safely into the poverty and the breadline. So that's definitely how to fail. Don't honor yourself. What do you value? And it's also valuing shadow and light, being also able to understand why we have to have shadow experiences in our life. We can't just be one-sided and only good, because we're constantly bringing in the opposites, okay? And here's another one. Try to get everything on the cheap. Beat down everyone. study and practice to become the perfect kind of chiseler. This will build an invincible poverty complex. You know, money is feminine. Mother, mater, matter. A lot of people don't realize that. So when we want everything for less, you're asking people to be less. And that's always an interesting experience. Why would somebody agree to be less? You certainly can get things for value, but you know, when people, it's like, oh well, that's not really worth it. Well, then step away. Okay. Also, you know, when people are sanctimonious, don't be sanctimonious. And when you bungle something up, all right, then people will say, I mean, they screw it up, they bungle it, and then they say, oh, it's the Lord's will, or the trouble is that you are too good for your surroundings, or something like that. So that's definitely Failureville. You'll definitely be in a town called Moan by being sanctimonious. I have it on the highest authority. Nobody does. Or you know better for a person. You don't. You know what's going on in them. You may have an understanding, and if you really have an understanding, hold an image of their greatest good. Okay? And here's one. Okay? Sit down and wait for something to turn up. This is the sovereign recipe for failure. And finally, conduct your life in all respects as if there were no divine or no God or no higher self. So that's the recipe. Pick any one of them, and you will be on your way to failure. And when we start to recognize that, or when we start to burden love with some of these things, we're actually destroying. And then people will, after they've stepped all over you, have done something really foolish or live by the Fool's Handbook, then they'll just say, well, I'm only human. Because they won't allow you your humanity, because if they could allow you your humanity, they could understand how this could happen. It's like, wow, man, remember the time I did something similar to that? Well, that's where that person is at. So today's task is to look and see, is there anything that you're doing? And as I said, holiday time is also regression time. We're going into the depths of psyche. We're going into the underworld to discover who we are and what we're about. And these festivals of light at the darkest time of the seasons is winter. There's your contrast right there. There's your opposites. We want to find the light, the consciousness, the love. Yay for love. In the dark. So when we begin to look at these different things that we don't realize that we're doing, we can stop doing them, or at least get conscious. Also, I'm seeing a lot, people are not very kind to themselves. If you don't feel good, rest. If you're visiting people out of duty or getting gifts out of duty, don't. Because that's not the intention. Because as practicing adults, we can say no. We may get a response from people. Okay. We have to be prepared for that. That your great truth may not be their great truth. Okay. And that's okay. That's okay. You can listen to that. Because all this transformation, endings and beginnings, and, even falling in love is the end of one's loneliness or aloneness, okay? Falling in love doesn't always make us whole, but it certainly makes it interesting. So this is the season that so many things are changing, and, we have all the astrological stuff that's supporting this, and we'll get free of a lot of this stuff by March, the Ides of March. So, gratitude, just for the sheer fact that you have a choice. And the choice, even if you don't have an external choice, if something you're caught in and you really can't get out of, the choice is how you view it. How do you want to live it in your mind? That's the choice. People can't get you to not love yourself unless you cooperate. Or if we project it into the outer world, that our happiness is out there, our joy is out there. No. I mean, we certainly participate with the joy externally, but it all begins right where you are, right where your beloved heart is. And this is what we're going to be doing with our holidays. I think next week I'm going to try to give you the teaching on gifting angels, which is very cool. Didn't know that, did you? That you can actually gift an angel, where they're always helping us. They're the conduits between heaven and earth, and we need to learn how to give them a gift. Because angels can feel, but there's a lot of things that they're never going to experience because they're angels. They're not human. It's like they don't know what it is to taste a strawberry. They can watch us taste a strawberry. So this is important to understand. So the holidays, just getting ready to go out to the Thanksgiving. Well, I say this every year, and somehow I never make it, even though it's like 2 blocks away. See the Thanksgiving parade. Actually, I like the night before on 72nd Street when they start blowing up all the floats. And it's just this very exciting time. If you're staying home under the covers, have fun, be kind. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And be careful, because the populace is a little out of balance. So you need to be aware. You're working on your consciousness. You're working on becoming an adult. You're practicing that. And when you see people, they're suffering so much. And particularly, they hold so tightly to their anger and their justification, which is just like drinking poison. Anger is like drinking poison and thinking the other person's going to die. It ain't happening, ever. So allowing yourself certainly to bear witness to something that is hurting, look what it's about, and also find out where it's stemming from. Because wherever you get triggered, it's got a root. And this is a lot of times what happens in the holidays, is we have this expectations, right? But it never really quite happens. And then we get disappointed in the holidays rather than say, no, you can create the holiness within yourself, the wholeness. It's a great quote from Jung. I'm paraphrasing it, as usual. And Jung was being interviewed, Paul Jung was being interviewed, and they asked him if it was for you to be good. How did he say it? He quoted, he said, I'd rather be whole than good, which is a pretty powerful image. There's an opposite right there, wholeness and goodness. So he was saying it was the individuation, which is what wholeness is and the image is and what his philosophy is all about. So have an absolute glorious, beloved, kick-ass, delightful time. And be thankful if you can, and if you can't, there's always tomorrow. All right? Next week. Okay, so also, LorraineNeithardt.com, and sign up on Blog Talk Radio so that you will get these episodes sent to you in your mailbox. And you can listen to them anytime. And I'm grateful for all of you who listen and telling the world, and this is terrific. So, till we meet again, bye-bye.
Progressive brings you Flowetry with Flo.
When Flo flows, she flows in the know. Mind ruminates the rates. Shown them all, I heed the call. Seeing the rest, I choose the best. Sometimes it's ours, sometimes it's not. When the fox walks, is it called a fox trot? That's a real question.
Compare Progressive direct rates with competitors' rates. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.